Hello, world. I am so excited for my next guest here on the Elise Morgan Experience. Her name is Molly Moore Smith, and she's described as the female Ted Lasso for her authentic grit and positivity. Molly Smith is a breakthrough and emotional wellness coach, best-selling author, international speaker, and founder of Next Best Step. I can't even talk today, LLC. After spending over 25 years climbing the corporate ladder in the tech industry, including time in the C suite, Molly made the bold decision in 2023 to step away from the executive leadership and into a role that aligned her with strengths, values, and passion for helping others. So, welcome to the show. I am so excited
Thank
for you to be
you.
here. And
Glad to be here.
I admire what you're doing. I admire that you took the leap
Mm.
to follow your inner being of what you wanted to do and
Yeah,
not leave the corporate world because we'll talk about that if you're still in the corporate world, but like just
I
follow
am.
your dreams. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, Mario,
Yeah.
kids, all the things that people will be like asking you if they just met you.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so
I live in North Texas. I've been here the vast majority of my life. Was raised here, went away to school in Colorado, came back and have not left. I've been married to my husband Jeff for over 25 years, and we have two, I call them adult-ish boys. They are 18 and 21. And I say adult-ish because I don't know, if you've got kids or any of your listeners have kids, like that generation of kids who were, in school during COVID and all of that, man, like it's an interesting time for young adults in
yeah,
our country. I know I'm experiencing it. They are technically adults, but Lord knows they still need some help.
yes,
Like, you know what I'm saying? So they're
please.
adult-ish kids. And so and I still am working in corporate, but I had a pretty massive pivot about 2 years ago, and that really came from a place of pain. I'm would happy to go and talk through that. But I've also been a health coach, and I've kind of pivoted and expanded my coaching practice that I've had for going on 6 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a really interesting journey, but really excited for where I'm at now and what's coming is like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, that I got chills just as you said that. So,
Yeah,
okay, let's back up here. So, first and foremost,
sure.
so when you say the corporate world, like you took a step back, what does that mean?
Yeah. So my background is in software and technology operations. I worked for software companies from the time I was, gosh, right out of college until about 5 years ago when I took a role. I at a smaller startup in an executive role, and that was very exciting for me because I had my sights set on, getting to an executive role. I was climbing the corporate ladder, and for the, previous, call it 10 to 15 years in business, I had so many fantastic mentors and people who believed in me and said, like, you could really, if you, continue on this path, you could be an executive, with an operations background and so forth. So when an opportunity presented itself, I thought, okay, this is going to be really cool, right? So I took an executive role right in the middle of COVID, right? So everybody is like June of 2020, everybody's working from home, was not looking for another job. And then the founder of this company that I work for reached out to me and we just had a conversation. That's one thing that I've learned is always have the conversation,
Yes.
right? Always, because you have no idea what is going to come as a result of that conversation. It was such a wonderful conversation. And it just so turns out that he was looking for an executive to come in and work in a particular part of the business. And, I was like, okay, why not me? Why
Exactly.
not?
Why not?
Right? Why not? Yeah. And so, I did it scared, because that's what we do when we try new things. And
Mhm.
so took a job at this company and just fell in love with the culture, the mission. It's a mission driven company,
Oh, good.
and just kind of rolled up my sleeves and tried to figure it out as I went. But I'll tell you, in a small company, first of all, you wear many hats. I don't care what your title is or what your responsibility is. When things got to get done, things got to get done. So you just do it.
So,
And what I found is as the company was evolving and people were, coming and going out of the company, an opportunity to step into an adjacent department that no longer had a leader. They asked me, "Hey, can you oversee this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, happy to do it." Right, and I did, and I loved the role. But as we were growing and seeing success, the responsibilities that I was tasked with
Mhm.
continued to evolve. And the way they evolved was more and more outside my skill set.
Mm.
Okay. So I have an operations background. I mean, give me a spreadsheet, give me a process,
Mm.
give me like, that type of thing. Love, love, love it.
Oh.
But my role was actually transitioning more into more business development and
Mm.
particularly in the nonprofit space, which I have zero background in nonprofit, right? Because I've been in technology companies. And
Right.
so that misalignment of, again, roll up my sleeves, trying to figure it out, which and I did everything that logically made sense on how to, expand and all of these kinds of things. But I found that I was so misaligned for what I was being asked to do versus what my skill set was, right?
Mhm.
And so the way that manifested is a lot of imposter syndrome, right? I mean, still to this day, I work with some of the most well-educated, highly credentialed people I've ever partnered with in my career. And so I didn't want them to think, oh, like she doesn't know what she's doing,
Right.
right? So I mean, it's like, that analogy of a duck, the duck kind of glides across the water, but underneath their little fins
Right.
are like go and go and go. Yes, that is exactly what it was like. And so I had a lot of imposter syndrome and I was not dealing with my emotions very well. So at the end of the day, instead of maybe going for a run or hitting the gym or doing a meditation, I'd pour myself a glass of wine.
Mhm.
Right. And so and that just kind of became the habit. It came my way of checking out. Does that make sense?
Along,
I think that,
along with like half the women in the United States of America, right? But
yes,
that's
yes.
why we need people like you to say things like that. So I'm going to back up because you
Mhm.
said so many things, and I
Sure,
was
sure, sure.
really
Sure.
listening. So first and foremost, that alone, you said misaligned with it because she didn't know what you're doing, but it also, I feel from the energy I got from you that you were misaligned with it overall, like maybe that too much work or just too much um things that you didn't choose to do really. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
a chosen thing. And it
Yeah, so there
oh,
is a absolutely. So there's a gap, something needed to be done. There is, a really strong initiative to go build these relationships in this space. And I mean I can certainly talk and connect with people and all the things. I have that skill, but the ability to go in and to do the kind of like relationship development that was needed in this particular space, I just didn't have any experience to draw from, right? And so if somebody who had, a deep bench of experience in nonprofit, this probably would not have been an issue, but it just wasn't my background. And and it felt like I was forcing it. Does that
right.
make sense? Like, when you work in the flow, you know it. When
Yeah,
you're not in the flow, you also know it,
exactly. That's
right?
what I meant by the misalignment because
Yes.
for my listeners, and they know this if they've been following me, but let's say it
Mhm.
again. When you're in flow, it doesn't feel like work, or it could be a difficult task, or it could be something that, it takes time and effort, but it
Right.
flows, so it doesn't feel like a chore or
That's
heavy and
right.
all those
That's
things.
right.
Tell us a little bit about, so you resorted, like a lot of us did and do, or whatever, you
Oh
resort to
yeah.
the wine, the checking out, the numbing,
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yeah.
times you don't even know that's going on. You don't even know that I don't know
Yes.
what I'm feeling. You kind of just resort to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When, where was the overlap with that happening and you becoming a health coach? And I know that I
Oh.
believe that you lost weight and stuff, right? So like when
Yeah.
the health coach is way different than a C suite executive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to love this.
Oh,
So
I
I
have.
actually started health coaching back in 2019. I lost 50 pounds on this
Good for you.
program that I coach, changed my life,
Awesome.
changed my life. And so I know you're obviously big into fitness and health and
Mhm.
all of those things. And you know what a game changer it is when you have your health in a good place.
Absolutely.
So when we're talking about timeline here, I started health coaching in 2019. I've coached hundreds of people over the last 6 years. But this was like early, like late 2022, early 2023. So here is where the rubber kind of met the road here, because I was health coaching clients. I was talking to clients about, good habits and stopping to, like, when you have that urge to go, eat the pizza or whatever, to stop and think about that, and put some space between that cue and that decision, like all of the great habit mindset stuff that you and I both know. I was doing that on a regular basis, yet I was living incongruent. Yes. So I was coaching one thing and I was living a different way. And I'll tell you, so, the previous like 6 to 8 months, towards like the last half of 2022, was when I was really kind of rolling up my sleeves, trying to figure out, can I make this work? Right? Like, I'm the only female executive. I've got I've been given big responsibility. I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't feel like making enough headway. And, fast forward to, call it January 2023. And at this point, I'm drinking the 1 to 3 glasses of wine every night. Like, I can't wait for 5 o'clock to hit, because I just want to check out. Like,
Mhm.
this is my home office. I would literally turn off all the lights. I would grab a glass of wine and I would sit on the couch, and I would pull out my phone and play Candy Crush or Farm Hero Saga and drink wine or binge watch something, because I just needed to
Mm.
check out. I was so operating in fight or flight. I was so dysregulated, but it was my only way of coping. It was my coping mechanism. But at the end of January, I was like, I'm done. Like, I feel so incongruent
Mm.
with how I was living. I was sick of how I was living. I was up a lot of pounds. I didn't feel good. I was sluggish. And of course, I was drinking every night. So, you go, you pass out, go to sleep, you wake up, not necessarily hungover, because I wasn't like
Wasted.
drunk. Do you know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you drink and then you
Mhm.
sleep, you don't sleep very well,
Right.
right? And so I was just like, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And I saw on Facebook, scrolling Facebook, doom scrolling, and my good friend Jenny, it's January, and like end of January in Texas, and there is like an ice storm. And here's my friend Jenny in an electric blue bikini during an ice freeze, and it's a Facebook Live, and I had it muted, and I unmuted it, and she's talking about how she's celebrating 100 days, 100 days sober, and to
Mm.
celebrate, she's going to do a polar plunge in her pool, which it's 27 degrees, and
Yeah.
that's cold in Texas.
Yeah, I
Of
personally
course,
wouldn't celebrate like that, but yeah, I get
you
it.
and me both, but to each his own. It
Right.
was so inspiring, because she talked about how much her life had changed, because she just stopped drinking for 100 days, and she
Mhm.
did her polar plunge. And I had met her a couple of years before, but I hadn't chatted with her. And you better believe, girl, I got in the DMs and I messaged her and I said, "Look, I saw your Facebook Live. I really want to talk to you about your experience. Stop drinking, like to stop drinking for 100 days." And so she immediately connected. I did make a decision after a subsequent call the same day. And listen, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe things happen
Um,
for a reason. Later, after that call, I had a call with my mentor in my health coaching business to talk about my business and all of that, because we were prepping for the next month. And she just asked me, "How are you doing? Like, how are things?" I'm like, "Not great. This is what's happening," or whatever. I told her about that video, and she goes, "How about you quit? How about you take a break from alcohol for 100 days and just
Try
see
it.
how you feel?" Yeah. Right. And so I was like, I'd already drank that night, by the way. So I was like, okay, I'll start tomorrow, which was February 1st.
Ah,
So
perfect.
I very quietly said, I'm going to take 100 days away from alcohol. Okay. And I didn't tell a lot of people. And I am pretty active on social media,
Mm.
but I was so scared I was going to fail. And I didn't want to be
Yeah.
seen as a failure in the eyes of the people who followed me, which is so dumb. Like, now that I look back on it, but I was really
No,
nervous about it.
it was more, from what I got from that, I get that too, but it also is you and you. Like, you don't need to
Yes.
tell everybody everything.
True.
Like, it's something for you to do
Yes.
yourself. So that's
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And
So Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, this is so good. So, all of this misalignment. So, I just want to try to bring it back
Yeah,
together
yeah.
because this is really, I mean, just so many things got orchestrated for my highest good during this time.
Always.
So, oh, yes. So, I decided to pause drinking, which was hard, definitely. And I was still in this misalignment with my job.
Mhm.
Okay. So, in the month of February, of course, it's, Valentine's Day, my birthday, I had a gala, all things that I would drink at. I stuck to it. Even my best girlfriends, and I write about this in my book, my best girlfriends took me out for my birthday and they took me to a paint and wine party. And
Yeah.
we pull up to this like little vineyard and shop, in North Texas, and they didn't know that I'd stopped drinking. And I looked at them and I was like, is this a wine tasting? And they're like, yeah, it is. And we're going to paint. And I was like, girls, I'm not drinking right now. And I mean, you could have, it was like I told them that the sky was purple. Like they could not believe it.
Right.
And so they drank and painted and I had water and painted. We had a really great time, but I was tested a lot during that, during
Yeah,
that,
it
that
sounds like
first
it.
month. Yeah. But then in March, I had a very pivotal conversation with my boss about my role and about the team and kind of where we were going. And I said, Elise, I said the single scariest thing I've ever said in my entire career. I said, and I'm on a meeting just like this. And it's one of those where you know where the conversation is going. And there was this moment of truth where I was like, I have to say the thing.
Yeah.
I have to say the thing. And it was like the anxiety was welling up in me. And I'm trying to like not let it the tears burst out of my eyes as I say, hey, look, if success in this role means that I'm going to have to spend 50% of my time or more talking to large nonprofits and foundations, then I don't think I'm the right person for the role. I literally was putting my livelihood, my family's livelihood, I mean, all of it on the line. Um, and I got to tell you, my boss gave the most shocking and yet beautiful response. I mean, I couldn't like now I can look back at it. I'm just like so much gratitude. But he said, "Hey, well, what if we could create a role where you could keep the operational aspects of your job, like the stuff that's my jam, the stuff that I
Right.
love, that I'm good at, and maybe we give you some time to build your coaching business." That sounds like a dream.
That sounds
That
like
sounds like a dream.
an awesome boss who's very understanding.
Oh, amazing. He was amazing. And so, but there were a lot of implications with that, right? So, just to kind of, sum up this season, if you will, like lots of misalignment, lots of coping with wine and checking out, and then
Mhm.
deciding to, hey, I'm gonna quit drinking because I'm over it. I'm over myself and something's got to change.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for conversations to have the hard conversation that I had been avoiding for months. Like it was one of those, you don't want to say it out loud. But then when I did, just the the opening to say, okay, first of all, I spoke my truth.
Yes. I was going to say that.
Oh my gosh. And so what transpired was this kind of hybrid role that I've had now for 2 years where I work about, 30 hours a week. I am doing work that is totally aligned to my skill set and also have been able to build capacity or create capacity, like time capacity, but also mental and emotional bandwidth because I'm no
Mm.
longer holding on to something that is not serving me, not good for me, right? And then so that I can say yes to the things that were coming my way. And there were a lot of things coming my way that I didn't know.
Right.
But whew, girl,
Yeah,
so
I'm
amazing.
like, I love all this because first of all, I think we were meant to record today because I want to put out this to listeners and for you and what you said is perfect for what I'm about to say. You were a health coach.
Sure.
I was a personal trainer. I was a competitor. I know what to do. I know
Yeah.
how to eat. I know how to keep myself healthy. And
Yep.
I mean, I was in a season of like kind of menopause, and then I didn't have control of my body. So I was like,
Yeah.
fuck it. It's happening anyway. I'm going to start to drink and eat. But then it started to turn into the every night. And then in
Yeah.
retrospect, it was a little bit of that, but a lot of it was other things. And we're in, at least I'm in this personal growth journey many, many years. I know about mindset. I know about feelings. I know about being aligned, but we're human first. And
Hmm.
you can fall into that. And sometimes it takes a little bit for you to be like, wait a minute, but we all have to get to that wait a minute moment. And
Yeah.
I certainly don't think that Facebook Live was a coincidence. I think that was your wake up
No
call
way.
for you. Anyone else could have seen it and been like, bloop, and it kept drinking, right? That
That's
was
right.
your message from the universe through her to you to stop the drinking. And I don't, it didn't sound like you had a drinking problem before that, like that you could have went out and, probably more social stuff like that.
Oh
It
yeah.
becomes that there's an issue whenever and even if it's, some people will say, and we'll get off the subject of alcohol, but some people say, well, it's only one a night. But why?
Yes.
They say, why is it one a night? And then, well, we'll
Yeah.
get into, like, I was speaking for myself because I've been falling off a little bit and not eating as healthy, not really with the
Yeah.
alcohol and having the dessert when I'm still trying to lose the menopause pounds. So
Yeah.
that taking that second that you did not, what you're literally preaching to people and didn't do is kind of like where I'm at now. So I feel like you're my
Yeah.
wake up call. Like,
Oh,
is,
good.
is this thing that you're doing
Yeah.
loving yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Is this thing you're doing aligned with where you want to go forward?
Correct.
So
Correct.
you just was like, you didn't slap me, but it was like a wake up.
No.
So
Good.
I
Good.
appreciate you being so vulnerable with that
Mhm.
and, and showing that half of what was going on with the anxiety and the overload and the job was within you because you thought they would think that you couldn't handle it. So it's all that inner dialogue and a lot of it,
Yes.
even if usually it's not even factual. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just trying to sit with yourself without wine, without anything
Yeah.
that's going to take you away from your connection to whatever you believe in,
Yeah.
and sit with it and say, what's
Yeah.
going on? What am I
Yeah.
feeling? I'm afraid. I don't feel like I can do this job. Why am I
Yeah.
afraid to speak to my boss? I mean, you have the whole dialogue.
The whole, yes, that's right. And I'll tell you, like at that point, I didn't have those skills. I didn't know how to name, acknowledge, and attune to my emotions. I just
Oh,
like, I'm 49 years old. I was not taught growing up
none of us.
how to name it. None of us were, right? And I have such a heart for women of our generation because we don't have those skills. Our parents didn't have those skills to pass down. And now we're in a place where I believe the world is, consciousness, we're waking up
Yeah,
to what's possible. And we're seeing that this ability to speak our truth, to name and acknowledge and just sit with and be okay with the fact, hey, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, or whatever it is, and
right.
just have that be okay and process that emotion and in a healthy way. And so, I'll tell you the where I'm going is all comes from the pain that I've experienced and the life that I've lived. And I think that's true for all of us as coaches and as people
Mhm.
who want to impact the world in a tremendous way. It's those lessons that come out of those struggles and that pain are what are the fuel for our purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone, and I actually had a recording today, every one of us are here because of some type of emotional pain, some kind of
Oh yeah.
pain in their life that even if you
Yeah.
wanted to avoid it, we couldn't anymore, right? And the
Yeah.
pain is what gives you your purpose. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that go through, let's say, parallel to you, parallel to me. They wake up, they grow, but they don't have that in them to like, I want to help others, which is fine. They just
Yeah.
go about their life enlightened or living in their truth.
Yeah.
But there's something I believe that we're called to do to help others from our pain because some people don't feel the need to help others. It's fine. And I
Yeah.
love that about you and myself, but it is usually from some type of emotional pain that you finally allowed yourself to go through. And I always try and let my listeners know like the only way out is through. And we
Yes.
in
Yes.
society are not taught we're even if it's subliminally, we're not taught to deal. We're taught to numb ourselves. Like, oh,
Yes.
and food is the number one drug for everyone,
Yeah.
right? And it's social, but it's everything. Like, how can I not feel what I'm feeling? How can I
That's
not feel
right.
what except if it's fun
That's
and
right.
joy with all the other things, but all the other shit
Right.
that we are here on this earth to feel. Because when you feel those things, you
Yes.
ascend and you grow
That's right.
personally, spiritually, every way. But we tend to avoid because it doesn't feel good. But if
Right.
we could start to teach the world that after that shitty part is even better than you will ever imagine. So
That's
you
exactly right.
mentioned your book, and
Yeah.
that's how I kind of we met through a membership program. But I had
Mhm.
reached out to you because you mentioned your book about publishing, and I have my book that I was in the
Yes.
middle of trying to publish it myself. So you gave me your publisher. So thank you. We'll
Yeah.
shoot them
Of
out here.
course.
G Rise's studio. Thank you very much. But
Yep.
I love the title of your book. And I also tell you, I'm going to throw this in here right now. So the title of your book is What the Funk? And I said funk,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, funk,
Yes.
the funk. But I also loved your spirit. I'm going to throw this out. And I've liked you anyway, but then you posted a story or whatever you did, a post, I think on Facebook, with you with your eye mask and your CPAP machine thing. And I was like, I love this girl because that takes like,
Yes.
we're both kind of funny and humorous. And I was like, that is so like somebody I want to like get to know. So thank you so
Yeah.
much because that's how between
I
the
didn't realize that you saw that post. Oh my gosh, that was so
just the
funny.
fact that you could make fun of yourself, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, and have fun and be funny. And then the book title, like that's such a cat. It's
Yeah.
so you know, I don't know you
Yeah.
100%, but I just love it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to throw all that in because I just,
Oh yeah.
husband he doesn't do the sleep mask. He has the CPAP thing. So it's
Yes. Yes.
great.
That was so funny. I have evening rituals. So I sleep with an eye mask because my husband still sleeps with the TV on.
Um,
And I've got a like one of those headbands that has the speakers in it. So I can I'm a huge fan of listening to
yes.
subliminal tracks at night. Like listen, if I'm a personal development junkie, if I can listen to something and get some, stuff going in the subconscious, like that's multitasking at its
Yeah,
best.
that's awesome.
And then of course I had a hair bonnet because my hairstylist, who I adore, hates that I wear my hair up at night and it like frays the hair. So I had the hair bonnet on. And then the CPAP came, and I'm like, I am so glad that I've been married for over 25 years because he's stuck with this.
Yes.
So
It's funny you said that because I met my husband when we were older. This is both our second marriages, and
Mhm.
he was getting or got he was in the middle of divorcing when I met him, but he had said to his friends, "What the fuck? How am I going to meet a girl with this frigging machine?" But he met me, so I didn't care. So
There you go. Absolutely. I
we're
love it.
still
I
here
love it.
years later. But anyway, what
Yeah.
the funk? What the funk?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that book.
Yes. So I will tell you that I signed on with our publisher, She Rises, for this book deal. And I'll tell you, I knew I had a story.
Hmm.
And a lot of it was the story that I just told about the misalignment and the drinking and my job and all those things, the phenomenal things that have come after. I knew I had a story and I knew that I wanted to share it, but I didn't know how to write a book.
Hmm.
And so I'm so grateful for this publisher because they really helped me through the process,
Hmm.
which was lovely. And I one morning I was in my like morning routine, and the title came to me, and it was like what the funk, and I I laughed because if you know me, or you're gonna know this after I tell you, like I have this propensity to swear.
I swear so bad. I'm a New York truck driver, basically.
Okay, so again, fast friends here, like good
Yeah.
energetic connection here. And so it's a little bit of my nod to swearing, but
Hmm.
it also is, we all end up in a funk,
Yep.
right? And we've been in a funk like various times of our life, we've been in a funk. And so the whole premise of my book is, okay, it's not if, it's when you find yourself in a funk, because everybody gets there.
Yep.
How do you get yourself out? And so the book is, first of all, it's a quick read. It's less than 100 pages, but I break down three different areas: health, mindset, and purpose.
Hmm.
And in those areas, I talk about where I've been in a funk. And every chapter ends with, how do you know you're in a funk? What does pursuing alignment look like? Right? Because
Love it.
living the aligned life, living the congruent life is where there is so much freedom, but it doesn't happen overnight, right? And so even in the pursuit of making a change, right, you feel the freedom and the momentum behind that. So how do you know, like, what does pursuing look like? And then what's your next best step? Which is the name of my company. And it's just been
I love it.
I've worked it into like, don't worry about step 25. You're on step 2. What's the
That's
next
right.
best step? Take that, right? Because when you take the action, motivation increases, you get clarity, and taking the next step after that becomes easier and easier and
Absolutely. I
easier.
love it.
Yeah. And so I break down, some of my health journey I talk about in the mindset piece. I talk about quite like in detail. And this was, you'll appreciate this, and we've been in professional development circles for and personal development circles for a while. And so there's this concept out there that says our thoughts shape our beliefs fuel our actions, and our actions dictate our results. And I believe that. But here's the piece, and this is my spin on it, is that what we consume shapes our thoughts, what we read, what we watch, what we scroll, who we are around. So if we don't like our results, then we need to change our thoughts, but we've got to go back to what we are consuming.
Of course.
So let me take you back when I was drinking the glass of wine and scrolling, trying to escape from that misalignment and that imposter syndrome that I felt in my job.
Mhm.
What I was consuming um, was things like, the scrolling is the comparative reality, right? And so
Candy
when you're
Crush.
putting, yes, and when you're putting those things in your head, that is fueling what is probably limiting beliefs and thoughts about yourself. I mean, all a limiting belief is a practice thought.
Uh-huh.
Half the time, those things are your perception, not your reality. So, my take on it is if you want to change your results, you got to go back to what you're consuming. And so, what came out actually through the writing of the book, I was able to kind of formalize how can we assess our consumption
Hmm.
so that we can make some small shifts. Again, take a couple of next best steps to shift and curate a more positive mindset. So for me, I do this in my head. It's called the mindset inventory. It's in my book. But I now do this on the automatic. So when I feel like I'm in a funk or I'm not like, feel like I'm off or whatever, I go back to, okay, Molly, are you binge watching something? Are you scrolling? What are you doing? Right. If I'm not caught up on my podcasts, there's podcasts, I cycle through, like that should be taking a lot of my white space time, right? Other than, meditating, exercising, that type of thing. But if I'm not doing those things, then I know that I'm not putting good stuff in. And so it's filtering through to
Absolutely.
my results. Yeah.
And that could be even, consuming, I'm trying to put it like into consuming old ways of thinking, even like you consuming.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure this out. We just switched. That threw me off for a little bit. Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
People
Sorry.
watching. If you're not watching, you're listening.
Hand
It
gestures.
just, it just our whatever our pictures switched, so it flipped me out for a second. Um, who are you around? And a lot of people don't. Um, I'm sorry, I'm going to edit this out because these things are popping up here. Something happened, so we'll edit that out.
That's okay.
It's
That's
about
okay.
what are you consuming, like what people are telling you. So what are you digesting that they're giving you that is not
Yep.
for you or is not feel good
That's
to
right.
you, or it could
Yep.
be your parents, it could be anything. So it's the same concept, but like
Yes.
I do to myself, like, wait a minute, why am I feeling this? Where did this thought come from? What was I thinking right before it? What was I doing
Yes.
for this?
Yes.
What, and
Yes.
it could be as simple as that. I thought of something, from 5 years ago that put me in a bad mood. That's not the best analogy, but you know what I mean? You have to like, I love
Something
it.
triggered you.
Yes.
Yes.
And I hate that word, trigger word. It triggers me. It's like this new word now because everybody's triggered over everything. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
podcast episode. But
Yeah.
yes, you want to see, if you want to use the word trigger, you want to see like where did it actually start from?
Yes.
It's almost like telephone,
Yes.
like you're
Yes.
here and the message is totally mixed up because started
Yes.
here because you want to be positive, you want to be happy, you want to be here, and you're not.
Yes.
So let's back it up. Where did all this
Yeah.
come from? And it's
Ha-
it's your responsibility, and you're accountable for yourself. And if you start
yes.
to have that self-awareness, that's very important.
Yeah. Do you follow Gabby Bernstein at all?
Yeah, yes, I do.
I love Gabby Bernstein. So I'm reading her new book, Self-Help, and it's all about internal family systems.
Mm,
And kind of what you're talking about is like it's called like parts therapy, and I do parts therapy with my therapist as well. But what you're actually kind of talking about is the kind of sitting back and like, okay, where did that come from? And like IFS and Gabby Bernstein would say, okay, what part is showing up? Like, what part of you? Is it like 23-year-old Elise
right.
who was struggling or whatever it was? And so trying to figure out and then just showing compassion to that part, right?
Yeah.
And so like, first of all, I highly recommend. like looking into internal family systems, Gabby Bernstein stuff. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. But you literally just kind of laid that out in just building that awareness of why
Mhm.
that's happening. Why is that happening? Because these parts come up to protect us, to shield us, all of those kinds of things. But they can be outdated parts,
Definitely
right?
outdated. And it's, we use the word trauma a lot, and I
Yeah.
think the laymen think like trauma is sexual abuse or child abuse, very deep, hardcore trauma. And trauma could very well be that your mom had to like go to her sister's house for an hour and leave you home with a babysitter, and you were like, "Where's my mom?" Like just the simplest little childhood thing. It could be.
Yes.
It goes back to when you're an infant that our parents were taught to leave your kid crying in a crib. It could really go that far back. I mean, you might not have that memory,
Yeah.
but that's what trauma is. That's when we use the word trauma.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I love all the different analogies that people give that inner child. Like I had a colleague say, you're driving the bus, your current you is driving a bus, and there's like 20 kids in the back screaming and wanting your attention. And it's like little 3-year-old Elise says, I want this. That's who's acting up right now. And just all the different people, all
That
the
is,
different versions of you. Isn't that great?
yes,
I'm
that
trying
is a phenomenal visual.
to think if I made
Whew.
that up. I don't remember if I did it. I'm so bad with that. But it doesn't matter because it's amazing. And I was like, that's awesome because, and it's the same thing. It's like, okay, who's screaming for my attention right now? Who needs me right
That's right.
now? And then you
Right.
kind of try, I still work on this, and sometimes you don't know, whatever, but you're like, and you give them the space they need, not space away, the space, hold space for them,
Yes.
hold them. What do you need? What do you want? What do you want from me? What didn't you get? And I,
Yes.
I love all that. And it takes
Yeah.
us to teach that because they're not teaching that in middle school, which they should. You know what I
No.
mean? And the average person, is not really knows how to do any of this.
I know.
And it just goes to show you by myself and yourself,
Yeah.
you can know all of it and still all of a sudden go into a funk and start to drink the wine every night and start to not be self-aware and not to write in your journal and not to do all those
Yeah.
things. And then sometimes that's you can't stop it. But then afterwards you can maybe say, wow, why did that start again? What
Yeah.
triggered me to almost say,
Yeah.
screw you, because we know it. And I think that's even worse for us because when you
Yeah.
do know it, when you
Oh
don't,
yeah, there's a cognitive dissonance in there, right?
you
It's
know,
like I'm going to be the 2-year-old toddler, what? Yeah,
yeah.
I have
But,
those
but
moments.
self-awareness and just understanding where your emotions and feelings are coming from and identifying them, which a lot of sometimes I don't even can't sometimes identify something, right? And
Yeah.
to know where you even if you don't know where it's coming from, just give yourself the time and space to
Space.
talk to yourself. No
Yeah.
one learns that. And I'm not talking about talk to yourself like a crazy woman,
No, no,
and
no.
we all do that too. Like, I got to go to the store. But I was saying, like, get to know yourself, get
Yes.
to know you because
Yes.
we're on like kind of a little bit of an autopilot. As we age, we're just, this is where we are now. And this is what I need to do. And this is
Yeah.
but what about like
Yeah.
really getting to know that inner you
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
I love that what you're doing. And
Yeah.
excuse me for not remembering what the new certification that you just learned.
Yes.
I would love
Yes.
to, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So the emotion code is so
Mm.
I'm a so as I was finishing writing the book, I was started a certification to become an emotion code practitioner.
That's so
And I
cool.
was introduced to it about a year ago, and it's just it's an energy healing modality that identifies any trapped emotions that you haven't released. So think about like a trapped emotion as like
Mhm.
emotional baggage, right? So when we have an emotion and we don't process it, sit with it, attune with it, acknowledge it, and then like really in a healthy way, those emotions can get trapped in the body, creating imbalances. And those imbalances can cause physical, mental, emotional, disruption in, pain, in the body. And so the emotion code is such a beautiful modality because we can use muscle testing to identify what your trapped emotion is. And we can even find out like what age you were when that emotion was trapped. And then we clear the trapped emotion by swiping over the governing meridian 3 times with your hand or a magnet. And I'll tell you, I love this. First of all, I'm a huge fan of cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, parts therapy, all of those things. Like But the emotion code work, it's a connect to the subconscious. And
Mm,
so what I believe, and really what I am building right now is a coaching program and container where we can help identify and build the skill of naming and acknowledging and attuning our emotion, how that impacts our mindset and how we show up and all of those things. But then also pairing that with some subconscious trapped emotion clearing. And I envision it really, it's like pressing the gas on your healing.
mm.
In addition to what other types of, therapy or what other kind of modalities you're using. Because what I love about it is that you don't have to relive the circumstance behind that trapped emotion in order to experience the release from it.
That's very important.
Because, yeah, I mean, can you imagine if we had to like cognitively process all of our big T, little t trauma for our entire, like, that's all we would do,
It's all we would
right?
do, and
It's,
it just it there would
yeah,
be too much, just too much. And I love the
yeah,
the energy release or the releasing, and I love that you touched on it.
yes,
We don't have enough
yeah,
time to go on
yeah,
what half of the stuff that's going on in our body mentally and physically is from our own trapped emotions, not from
sure,
this and that outside
yes,
of ourselves. A lot of it, and that's another thing society is not told, right? Take this pill, you'll be all right. No, how about, release your, first feel them. Maybe you never felt them, but I'm
yeah,
really into that energy release. And I had a Reiki session probably going on like 2 weeks
oh yeah,
ago through Zoom, which is really cool because I'm open to anything. I love all this stuff. So I'm never like, how can that work? Because guess what, everyone? It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's amazing what stuff
yes,
can be done. And if you're open
yeah,
to, so I didn't think anything of it. But then that was on a Tuesday. That weekend, I did an ayahuasca ceremony.
oh, did you really?
And I think the Reiki session, and that was like my 10th Aya. And I've done it a few times because I just get different things out of each one. And I found that to be
Sure,
a great release for me. It's that plant medicine does very well for me. But anyway, that
yeah,
particular um, ceremony that weekend, I probably released so much physically that couldn't even, like, the emotions weren't mine almost, because I
yeah,
think it was just stuff so old, trapped. It could be generational. I don't know.
yes, yes,
I truly, and way before that happened, I truly believe that we have trapped energy. It was like on the list of things to do, one of those things like, oh, I want to have Reiki or I want to have this, that. So
yeah,
I'm really interested in what you have
yeah,
to teach
yeah.
and curious if you could do it here on the air, like just to
You
do.
want, yeah, you want to do, we can identify some trapped emotions. You want to
Yeah,
do it?
I would love it.
Okay,
I am open
awesome.
to being like, yes, my father.
Okay, good. Yes.
Sure,
Okay. So
I'm
like
open.
this is the emotion code book. And I actually reference my book because there's a little table in here. And for those who are watching the video, you'll see it. But there's a table here of 60 emotions. And so what I'll do is and so I always ask you to always, I'm connecting to your subconscious. And
Okay.
so for those who are not familiar with energetics and that type of thing, the closest analog or analogy that I have is I'm connecting to your Wi-Fi, right?
Hmm.
And your consent to say yes, you have permission. That's like giving me the password,
Hmm.
right? Okay, so do I have your
And,
consent?
and I like that you said that because people tend to,
Yeah.
the woo-woo stuff is like, oh, that's not real, that's not that. And it's like, do you believe in Wi-Fi? Yes.
Yes.
Same thing. You don't see Wi-Fi, but it works, right?
It
So I
works.
love that
Yes, that's
analogy.
right. Okay, so I always start with just kind of saying just a quick intention to connect. Okay, and I use muscle testing. All right, so I'm just going to test, and I use the ring and ring muscle testing. So I'm just going to say, okay, I'm clearing for Elise, and I'm getting a strong signal here. So okay, so we're just going to go through the list here and say, okay, does Elise have a trapped emotion? Yes. Is it in column A? Yes. Odd? No. Even. Okay, so it's an even row. Uh, six. Okay, so humiliation, jealousy, overwhelm,
Hmm.
overwhelm. All right, so usually what I do to find the age is I'll just kind of split your age in half and try to narrow it down. So is this trapped after the age of 30? No. After the age of 20? Yes. Between 20 and 25? No. 25 and 30, 25, 28. Overwhelm at 28. Okay, so overwhelm at 28. Do I need to know anything more? Ooh, yes. Okay, so I do need to know something more. What was going on at 28 for you?
I don't even remember being 28.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I would have to like look at the year, like what year it was.
Look at the year.
And
Okay, so we're talking, yeah.
it
Okay,
was
so
probably something to do with probably wanting to like not be married anymore because it was before I had kids and that came
okay.
a lot. It could be
Okay. Were
just
you working?
no.
Okay. All right. So is it related to relationship? Okay. So
Yeah.
yes. So overwhelm related to relationship. Okay. Do I need to know more? Is it safe to clear? Yes. So we're good. So I'm just going to take my trusty little magnet and I'm just going to swipe over my governing meridian 3 times. All right. And that releases the energy. Did I get it? Yeah. So we released that. So we released overwhelm from age 28. Now that was your emotion. And so we can have our own trapped emotions. So that was an emotion of overwhelm that you felt. But you can also have a shared emotion, absorbed trapped emotions. So, like, you can absorb it. Like, I've got a son who's hyper empathetic, he gets a lot of absorbed emotions. You can have inherited emotions, and that gets passed to you at the time of conception from your parents. And so, like, I was just doing a clearing for a dear friend and client this week, and I released like 3 or 4 inherited emotions that went back 4 generations. One went back like I think 8 generations. And when I clear those, I clear that frequency, that frequency for everybody who holds it dead or alive, which is so stinking cool.
Oh.
So stinking
Yeah,
cool.
God,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you were doing. I thought I was gonna
Yeah.
have to do the muscle testing, but I
No. Mm-mm.
say that
Yeah.
I feel like physically I felt like a warmness.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
But
common.
I didn't feel release or anything, but I just all of a sudden felt like this warmness.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah. So typically when I do a session with somebody, I can do over Zoom or I can just do it like and send you the results by email. And that's how I work with my clients. And then I can in a 45-minute session, I can get to like 40 to 50 different trapped emotions. Now, after a clearing, the 1 to 2 days after a clearing, sometimes it's a little bit longer. That's processing time. So
Right.
I've released that energy, but then you're going through like a processing time of releasing that trapped energy. And what happens, you can feel a little run down, you can feel a little sleepy, or you can even have some rebounding, right? So just for example, in the next couple of days, if you have kind of this spike of overwhelm, right? Because that's the motion that we release. So you might have it amplified. If that happens, that's just your body releasing it. Okay.
Hopefully we'll
And
release
so
hopefully we'll release the current overwhelm too, because that
yeah, well, there you go. There you go. And what's beautiful about this is that we can focus on something very specific. So if there's something specific or you've had a specific circumstance where you feel like, I really would like to see, are there any trapped emotions related to that? We can do that.
that's
We also, I'll just tell you one quick story. I was recently in Arizona. My dad had a kind of a health crisis, and we came back from that. I was gone for a week and came back, and I did a clearing for my dad's wife who was having some back pain, and they were driving from Arizona back to Colorado where they live, and she's like, my back pain is like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Can you see if there's any trapped emotions there? So I did a clearing for her. About 45 minutes later, I got a message. She's like, unbelievable. My back pain is like at a 1 to 2 out of 10, which is amazing. Now, I'm not a doctor, all of
right.
those things. This is an energy healing modality, but there can be a lot of relief physically, emotionally, mentally with this modality.
Yeah, and I think what people need to hear is like as long as you're open to it and you're
Yeah,
with someone you trust, obviously you have to trust
yeah,
and has good
yeah.
energy because when you open yourself up, it's like a portal opening to
Yes,
the other person as well. So you want to be, just make
yes,
sure people are like Molly, and good
yeah,
intentions and all those kind of things because
yeah,
you can invite in bad juju, if you will. So what exactly?
yeah,
I had my eyes closed actually because I just wanted to
mhm,
be
yeah,
present. What
yeah.
what are you doing that you're feeling? What are you feeling? Are you feeling energy?
Yes.
Oh, you're feeling is it a message? Is it what is it?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. So muscle testing, there's like, 8 or 9 different ways to muscle test.
Okay.
The method of muscle testing that I really worked on, I have like tons of hours of doing this through my certification. It's called Ring and Ring. So I'm putting my my ring finger and my thumb together, and I'm clasping them. So when I am connecting, I will say, okay, am I connected to Elise? Yeah. And if I pull that, I pull my fingers, and if they stay strong, it's a yes. And if they pull apart, it's a no. So
Mm,
it's literally a series of yes or no questions. You and your listeners, you guys could to muscle test yourself using the sway test. It's very common, where if you stand like feet like hip distance apart and you get really still, stand tall, and you say, okay, hey, mine is my name Elise, and just wait a beat or two. If you do that, you'll lean forward,
for
right? You'll
you.
kind of sway forward. That's a yes. If you say, my name is Molly, and you do that, you stand there. It's your subconscious. Your subconscious speaks through the body,
Mm,
right? And so you're going to sway backwards. So there's different muscle testings, like with the arm, like the arm test and stuff like that. So it's very
pretty cool.
common in physical therapy, massage therapy, kinesiology, all of that.
That
So
is so cool. And it's not something
yeah,
I knew about. So I'm so grateful for you to bring
yeah,
it to my attention and
sure.
to the listeners and to your
Yeah,
people. That's amazing.
yeah,
So your
yeah.
story of like going from, they call the corporate world, the carnival, to like the woo. So you went,
Yeah,
and you're still in a little bit of both. So you got juggling,
I
you're doing
do.
a juggling act that you're aligned with
Yeah,
everything. So that's good to hear. So
yeah.
I'm so grateful that you came on the show and I got to
Thank
speak to you
you.
personally. And I
Yeah,
have just two more questions I like to ask
bring
my,
it.
to say my audience, but I ask them questions all the time. So the first one I always ask is, if you can go back in time and give advice to your younger self, or
Mm,
you just want to say something to your younger self, doesn't have to be
yeah.
advice, what would that be?
Oh gosh. You're not going to find worth in external validation.
I love that one.
I mean, I spent decades finding that, chasing that external validation. And I mean, it's just been in the last 4 or 5 years that I've had to unwind that and kind of rewire, what does success look like?
Hmm.
My worth is inherent. It's not dependent on anybody else. Right. But those are hard lessons to learn. And that's a hard to unwind. So I
It is.
absolutely would tell my like 20-year-old self that for
Yes.
sure.
And that's something I work on. Basically, like what I love to do is basically empower women. And that's something
Yeah.
that you can teach so that they can learn the
Yes.
lesson a lot quicker than decades. So they have a roadmap
Yeah.
of that, not looking outside. I have that in my book a lot about everything comes from within. So thank you for bringing
Correct.
it up and
Yeah.
having my listeners hear that, because so many people
Sure.
need to hear that. And my next
Yeah.
is that I'm an affirmation girl and I like
Oh,
affirmation. I feel
yes.
I really relate to them. I do them every day or I listen. So it doesn't have to be your overall end all be all. What is your
Yeah.
I am statement, for your current present self, let's say?
Oh, I am energized. I am aligned. I am abundant. I am confident.
Wow, four.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Awesome.
really like the energized, like I am in a season right now where I'm kind of building my coaching business in a kind of a different way, but I'm doing it from a place of energetic alignment.
I love
And
that.
so I'm doing things that energize me, that raise my vibration, and they fill my cup. And that is the foundation of the business that I'm building. Because when you are energized and aligned,
You're
like
unstoppable.
that's it.
You're unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that today, because today I think I said out loud, like, oh, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not saying that out loud because then I'll just be more tired. Because
Yes.
you are what you say you are. But I
Yes.
also am starting to see and being much more aware of, no, that does not fill my cup. Not that I'm even
Yeah.
filling someone else's, just within
Yeah.
the business, like that's not doing it.
Yes.
I mean, I know there's a lot of crap
Yeah.
in business that we have to do. You have to do some
Sure.
things that aren't going to fill your cup, but it's just part of
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
right? But other
Yeah.
than that, if it is something you can choose,
Yep.
stop trying to do things that are taking from you, even if someone else is
That's right.
doing it and there's, super successful. It's not my path. And that's what
That's
I've
right.
learned now. Like, no, that's not for me.
That's
And
right.
I maybe, if, you know, it's not for me, meaning like I maybe could make money doing that, let's say, but it's not for me. So if you're not aligned, then you're not happy, and no money can make you happy, which of course money is external, blah, blah, blah. So I'm so glad you
Always.
said that, because
Yeah.
I've been in I've been in a funk. I've
Okay.
been in a bit of a funk, not deep, deep, but
Yeah.
just you were my wake up call. So thank you so much. So
Oh,
appreciate you being
yeah,
here. So
of
I'll
course.
put everything in the show notes, but you want to tell everybody like where's the best way to find you?
Yeah, yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Molly.positivepants on Instagram, Molly Moore Smith on Facebook, and my website is www.nextbeststep.co.
All right. Well,
Yes.
I mean, anyone listening, if you want to take your next best step, I urge you to get in touch with Molly. I mean, you see everything that she does. You can health coach, you can get, energy clearing, and you can also just get just upgrade your life. Next best step for you. What is your next best step? So please reach out to Molly. And till next time, I wish you all much love and light. Have a great night.